Right, members, I'd like to welcome you along to the Ad Hoc Waste Collection, Treatment and Disposal Subcommittee meeting on Thursday, the 3rd of November at 2 p.m. I'd like to say good afternoon, members, and welcome to this meeting, which is being live streamed and recorded. The recording will be made available on the Council website for public listening. Could I remind members to follow good practice guidance, which includes muting microphones and switching off their video when you are not addressing the meeting. Should you wish to contribute to any item, you should write "Speak" in the Teams chat function, and you will be invited to speak in order about new issues. Should your question or issue be raised by a previous speaker, please withdraw your request so that we deal with the business as efficiently as possible. The usual standing orders apply, including that any votes will be undertaken by roll call. If any member has to leave the meeting for any reason, can I remind you to either leave the Teams meeting for that period of time, or you could write "leave" in the Teams chat function and then join. This will allow us to monitor members' presence. Could I ask the clerk for Sedum and apologies, please?
Thank you, Chairman. We've got 5 members present. We've got 3 members present in Council HQ, being the Chair, Councillor Ferguson and Councillor Howie, and 2 members present on Microsoft Teams. Not present at the start of the meeting is Councillor Dougie Campbell, Councillor Dempster, Councillor Scobie, Councillor Tate and Councillor Wood, and I have apologies from Councillor Inglis. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Do any members have any declarations of interest? I take it that's a no. The minutes of the previous meeting for noting. Members agree to that? Thank you. We'll now go on to item 4, Waste Service Capital Investment in Waste Infrastructure, the report by the Head of Roads and Infrastructure. This report provides members with the opportunity to review the proposed investment in the Council's waste management facilities, including the household waste recycling centres, HWRCs, transfer stations and closed landfill sites. The report also provides the progress and the planned works to develop fire suppression improvement works for the Ecodeco Mechanical Biological Treatment Facility. James MacLeod is available to take any questions on the report. Have you got anything to add to the report, James?
Nothing to add to the report, Chair.
We're open for members. Any questions from members? I'd like to put to James. Stephen's there as well. John Young, please. Can you speak, John?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for letting me in. Good afternoon, everybody. I note on page 50 in the table of maintenance works that we are replacing 4 porta cabins with replacement cabins. Now, to my mind, porta cabins have a limited life, and while we're in this age of making things last, will the replacement cabins have a longer life than the cabins that they are replacing?
James?
Chair, through yourself. Sorry, seem to be getting a bit of feedback. Laptop's on mute, everything. Sorry, Councillor Young. Yeah, the cabins we have at these sites are somewhat dated and not in very good condition. We will work with colleagues in property and architectural services in terms of ensuring that what we replace them with are suitable for a longer lifespan. I'm led to believe that for permanent structures, the porta cabin style facility is not a long-term permanent structure. So some of these are quite historical in terms of probably being put in, probably predating the PFI contract, some of them maybe during the PFI contract. But yeah, I would agree with you that we want to put in something that has a longer lifespan and is more environmentally sound in terms of maintaining good temperatures inside for the operatives.
Thank you. You happy with that answer, John?
Yes, very happy.
Thank you. Any other members? There's a hand up, but I don't know whose it is. Councillor Wood.
Hi, Chair. Sorry, apologies for being late getting in on the meeting. I've been trying to get a signal. It was really to say that with regards to the actual doors, the roller doors, what are the problems with the roller doors and why do they have to be replaced? And the other thing that was, this is very much about infrastructure. My concern is that there's a review being done on the road network because the waste bin lorries, there's certain roads they will no longer be able to travel. And I would like to know where we're going to be with that and how they're going to address that problem.
Want to answer that, James?
Councillor Wood, through yourself, Chair, Councillor Wood. In terms of the roller doors, I can come back to you with further details on the exact issues with the roller doors at the transfer stations, but they're the ones that obviously when we're unloading and loading vehicles, the doors are opened to let the vehicle in and then have to be shut. And these doors have a tendency that after a period of time of use that they just need repaired. And we're probably looking to replace them with better quality doors as we move forward with longer lifespans on them. But I can offline I can provide some further information on that, and of course the offer is there that, as it is for all members of this subcommittee to make contact with my staff or me and my staff to have an opportunity to visit the sites and see the operations firsthand and understand what we do and the challenges that are sometimes faced. So I can come back to you on that one. With regards to the roads, I can certainly comment from the point of view of the policy that we have in place that was approved by Communities Committee a couple of years ago with regards to road end collections, which I believe is what you're referring to. And the standards which we would expect public and private roads to meet before we would take a refuse collection vehicle down them. This is something that is going to take quite a number of months and probably years to fully resolve in terms of assessing roads that we currently travel down as to whether they are suitable for safe passage by a refuse collection vehicle. And if they're not, don't meet the certain standards, and that includes width of road, tightness of bends, overhanging vegetation and the like, and road condition, that we won't be able to in the future take a refuse collection vehicle down these roads, and we will revert to having a communal collection facility at the end of the road. And that, as I said, applies to both public and private roads. I'm not sure I fully understand your comment on the assessment of the roads from a roads point of view. Stephen, are you maybe able to add anything to that?
The assessment from a roads point of view is one that's undertaken with officers on a risk basis on RCVs accessing individual roads in terms of their compliance with the criteria and the minimum standards. It's not a road service review, it's a review of the kind of safe operation by the RCV vehicles of more remote parts of the road network. Thanks.
John, can I come back?
Yes, come back in if you want, Andrew.
Right, thank you very much, John. It's with regards to climate change. We are supposed to be looking at trying to ensure we reduce our CO2. Now, the problem is that if you have these communal lifting points, you're going to have residents in the area going to it and backwards and forwards, right? That means you're going to have multiple vehicles dropping off waste. Would it not be better to look at having the correct vehicle for the roads? If we're not able to maintain our roads to the 3-metre wide standard, I would suggest we need to look at vehicles that are more appropriate for rural uplift. Would that be a fair comment or not?
I come back on that, James.
Through yourself, Chair, my counter-argument to that with respect is that the road end point is located at a position where those living in the properties will pass on a regular basis to do other things like go to the shops, go to work and so forth. So it's not an additional journey to go to the end of the road to drop your waste off. From our point of view, if we can use larger vehicles on rural routes, as we are currently doing the six-wheel 11-ton vehicles, then we reduce the number of times they have to return to tip and the distances that they have to return if they're running routes up in the Sanquhar and Kirkconnell area from the Dumfries site or in the Langham area from the Annan disposal point. The larger the vehicles we can use, then the more efficient they are in terms of number of returns to tip. So I would suggest that the operations that we're currently putting in place are the most efficient. Furthermore, driving up these narrow roads with large vehicles, whether they're a four-wheel vehicle or a six-wheel vehicle, just adds to the impact on roads that are not designed for that kind of vehicle. So it has an environmental impact in that. And RCVs, in terms of fuel efficiency, are running at about 4 or 5 miles per gallon to run a refuse collection vehicle, compared to cars which are maybe running at 30 to 50 miles per gallon. I would argue that we want to reduce the mileage that these RCVs travel. So no, my view from an operational point of view is that road end collections are a more efficient and environmentally more sound way of the crews collecting waste in Dumfries and Galloway.
Thank you, James. Ian Howie.
Thank you, James. I'm led to believe that there's no wastewater facility in Castle Douglas for emptying the street sweeper. My understanding is that vehicle to empty has to travel to Dumfries. If that is the case, is there any opportunity in future to provide such a facility in Castle Douglas to ensure that the vehicle spent most of its time doing its job as opposed to travelling to and from Dumfries? As I'm led to believe, I don't know if that's accurate or not.
Make you switch your button off before I press mine. For yourself, Chair, did you say road sweeper? Was that correct? Yeah. I hate to be it's not my responsibility, but it falls under my responsibility in terms of road sweepers. But you are correct that the road sweepers that the council operate through the street scene service, their disposal point is in Dumfries at one of our off-takers. The material, particularly from them and the gully emptiers, needs to be treated. We used to take road sweepers into the MBT facility, but realistically, all it's picking up is grit. You know, it's picking up a lot of kind of grit off the roads, and that just damages the plant, the MBT plant. It damages the shredder and things like that. So it doesn't come in there. So it doesn't now go into the transfer stations as it would have maybe done in the past. The facilities you need for that, realistically, it's going to be more cost effective. It's my understanding of how the service operates. I mean, more cost effective still to run the vehicles back to one disposal point than having transfer facilities or some treatment facility for that kind of waste. So we take that direct to an off-taker in Dumfries. But I can take that up with, we can maybe have an offline conversation. I can pass you to colleagues in street scene who maybe know a little bit more about that level of detail.
Thank you.
Have we got any other members? No? Andy?
Thanks very much, Chair. James, I'm referring to the appendix just now, and you've gone into a fair bit of detail here about the costs. There are a number of them, though, are estimates at this moment in time. So will you be reporting back to us if we're underspent or overspent on that in the future, to keep us up to speed?
Thank you, again, through yourself, Chair. With regards to the sort of capital works, what is proposed here is that these works will be funded from within the infrastructure, within the public realm asset class, the new infrastructure asset class. So monies will come across from that, and how we would like to do it is in a similar way as we do all the other capital investment in this kind of infrastructure will be reporting to Communities Committee for approval for the spend. However, the way we've done it with Harbour Subcommittee as an example is we run the programme of works through Harbour Subcommittee, and then we take that to Communities Committee and say, Harbour Subcommittee think this is a good idea. They don't recommend it, but they recommend to Communities Committee that this is what should be done, and Communities Committee obviously approve it. So I would propose a similar approach with this kind of investment, and we have in the order of about a £300,000 identified investment budget for the waste service, and we'll kind of fluctuate. It will up and down that over the years to do the investment we require.
Fine, Andy. I just hope we don't overrun, because see we've got an optimism bias in there of 30%, so hopefully that should take care of any overspend. Is there anyone else got anything before we go to recommendations? Right, we'll just go to the recommendations. Are we happy to agree the recommendations 2.1 and 2.2? 2.1, the proposed investment of up to 1,110,000 is required works at household waste recycling centres, transfer stations and closed landfill sites, as outlined at paragraphs 3.2, 3.4 and the appendix to this report, with these works to be funded from within the existing waste budgets from the financial year 2022-23 and approved and monitored by the Communities Committee as part of the Public Realm Asset Class Investment Programme. I think we just heard that. The progress and number 2, the progress and the planned works to develop a fire suppression improvement works for the Eco mechanical biological treatment facility, and the need to align this with future waste strategy as detailed at paragraphs 3.5 to 3.10. Members quite happy that they've reviewed these recommendations? That's fine. Go on to 5 now, the waste service update on the rollout of the food waste collection service, performance on the curbside recyclates collection service and the glass collection service report by the Head of Roads and Infrastructure. This report provides members with an update on the food waste collection service rollout and an update on the performance of the recently introduced curbside recycling collection service and glass collection service. James and the team are happy to take questions on this report. Have you got anything to add to the report, James?
Nothing to add to the report. I would just add that Janice Ireland, who's the joint author of this report, is available on Teams as well to take any questions.
Thanks for that, James. We're now open to members for any questions to James and his team. You want to speak, John?
Thanks, Chair. I lost the internet supply for a wee moment there. Near the end of the report on page 63.53, you're talking the report discusses very positive. It is a very positive report, and I really enjoyed reading it. But it talks about the planning for the new garden waste collection service. And second last sentence, it says, with respect to the cost for delivery, thus the charges that would be necessary to ensure cost neutrality. Now, obviously, we've surveyed and got an understanding of how much members of the public were willing to pay for this service, and it seemed to be a very positive survey. But I didn't think at any time we had made it mandatory for it to be cost neutral. Obviously, it will cost as little as possible, but I think it's more important we have a service that perhaps may make a slight loss, but does a great job in collecting garden waste and cutting down on landfill. I didn't think this committee had ever said it had to be absolutely cost neutral. Can we have some clarification on that, please, Chair?
I don't think this committee can make any recommendations, John. It's a Communities Committee. It makes the recommendations. It makes the decisions.
I'm just discussing what's in front of me in the report, Chair.
Thanks, Chair. If I could come in terms of the cost-neutral approach, we're very much, in terms of the work that James and the team have done in preparing the bid to Zero Waste Scotland, we've made it clear that that is an aspiration. It's certainly something we've discussed with Chair, Vice Chair of Communities Committee, and we would anticipate it would be agreeable in terms of the budget setting process and the thoughts we're already having about balancing a budget for next year. What we will do is, when we do get feedback from Scottish Government to the team on the bid that we've put in, depending on the level of funding, we can present options to a future committee. Our starting point, or my suggestion is our starting point, is that we aim for a cost-neutral service, and we can identify, based on the funding from Scottish Government, what it would cost to run the scheme, and the options on that, and the options on a charge rate to cover most of the costs. What a cost-neutral scheme would look like. We could also look at other options if that's what our elected members would require of us, to look at a loss-making scheme. But my kind of starting point in terms of bidding for Scottish Government funding is that we would seek from them enough capital funding that we could launch. Officers certainly wanted to look at a launch of a cost-neutral scheme and understand how to minimise charges to the public, but not increase costs to the council in terms of a subsidised scheme for a service that is not at this time statutory.
Thank you. That's very useful.
Okay. Any other members wishing to speak? Well, I'm not going to implore you to speak like right, I see is one last go. Is there any other members saying this? You, Andy? Andy Ferguson.
Okay, I think it's quite stark actually when you see the appendix and you see the tonnage, the different types of waste coming from different places that are now being recycled as opposed to where they were, you know. If you just look at the Stuart in April 21, it was 23.5 tonnes, and then September 21 it was 37.98 tonnes in mixed plastics and tin cans. So in the past it can only be deduced that was going into landfill. So that's a huge improvement in recycling, and just adds weight, I would suggest, to the policy is getting it right, and it's been successful up to now. The thing now we need to do is really finish that education programme, for lack of better words, to make sure that people continue and expand how they actually do it in their houses, and encourage the ones who are currently no recycling as they should into a better, greener way of living, basically. We're never going to eradicate it entirely, I would suggest, but I think we should be aiming for as low a percentage of the population as possible. You know, again, I'm just looking here at the food waste even, you know, in Stranraer, if I'm right there, James, that's 87.56 tonnes from April 21 to September 21 of food waste in Stranraer depot alone. As my mother used to say to me, you know, there's Wayne starving elsewhere in the world, eat your dinner, you know. The wastage of food is a major thing that we need to work with and take it forward. And I think just one last comment, if I maybe get James or Stephen to come in, is that the recycling thing of the glass is we've not used all the bins as yet, am I right? We've still got some in stock. Yeah, for recycling glass just now, yeah. One thing I have fed back, and there wasn't a negative per se, it was that when the contractors were putting in the concrete bases for 2 bins, people couldn't manoeuvre them because it was that small, and I'm just wondering if you could maybe, when you're putting other ones in, to make sure that they're sufficient size so that people can actually manoeuvre the bins, and the workmen can manoeuvre the bins to load them up onto the vehicles. It's the only negative I've had in this whole scheme, and it's a fixable one, isn't it? You know, it's it's an extra couple of feet of concrete, basically, in the plinth. So if I can leave that with you to take forward, it'd be really useful. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. We can sort that element. I'll speak to colleagues in the road service and who have done the works. There's still more to go in the Annandale and Eskdale area because we've been struggling to get the bins. Just picking up on your points on the amount of recycling, then yeah, well, I mean we're impressed with the amount we've done. We're continuing with the communications plans for continuing to increase recycling rates, and we'll be picking up on the extra bins as the next sort of step to remove extra bins that people have for residual waste, because extra bins means less encouragement to recycle. So parity of service to all, and I hope we can continue to keep these recycling rates growing. And as Councillor Young's picked up on the garden waste service as a potential additional improvement in recycling rates.
Thanks, James. It certainly is a good news story when you see these figures like it is. So, as I say, but no doubt some people on Facebook will say they're false or something like that. But have we got nobody else wishing to come in? Can we go to the recommendations that members have reviewed the progress of the rollout of the food waste collection service and the date for the completion of this service to flatted properties as detailed in section 3.1. 2. The update of the curbside recycling service that was fully implemented by June 2021 as detailed in section 3.2. 3. The total tonnage of recyclates collected from the curbside since introduction and rollout of service since April 2021. 4. The total tonnages of food waste collected from the curbside since the reintroduction in Stranraer and subsequent rollout of services to Dalbeattie, Dumfries, Lockerbie, Gretna and Annan. And finally, 5. The progress with development of the potential garden waste collection service as detailed in section 3.5. Members agreed that they've reviewed all this. Andy?
Obviously I do agree with all the recommendations, Chair. And I'm just wondering here if it's here at Communities Committee when this comes up, whether we actually add another recommendation in, is that we thank the community for their positive input into this whole process, because by and large the public have been very supportive of this. So whether
it comes, it may come to the December 7th Communities Committee.
Yeah, I'm sure James
it's noted from here, so they can take that forward if they're going to. Right, I've got no other business on this. Any other business deemed urgent by the chairman, me, and the need for a decision. I don't know. I've got no other business. I'd like to thank everyone for their contribution to the service today.